Hispanic vote, isn't that
Yeah,
right?
right. And the last time a Republican carried Miami-Dade was Jeb Bush in his 2002 re-election, where he was carrying everything.
Karl
This is a
Rove,
really
the
remarkable
criminal.
story here tonight.
Everybody remember Karl Rove.
The transition of this historically Democratic county in the southern part of the state is part of a broader story about Florida. Think about this. In the last 4 years, they have added 600,000 new registered Republicans to the rolls in Florida and 27,000 Democrats.
You guys remember that guy?
We're now at the first time that the Republicans have ever outnumbered Democrats in registration.
Well, Florida has changed so dramatically in the past couple of years, right? And so we'll see whether or not this is reflective of other trends across the country or whether this is a Florida story that we're watching play out.
Either way, it bodes well for 2024 for Republicans.
And we've got this brewing competition now between Mr. Trump and Governor DeSantis, which has been, obvious in the last couple of days. If it's a big night for DeSantis and his running mates in Florida, that would sharpen that competition a bit, give Mr. Trump something to think about.
Yes, it would.
I don't think Mr. Trump would
we're
care.
We're going to focus on 2022. But you're right.
But that's a story to watch. There's no doubt about it.
We got a long time.
It's out there.
Britt's got a twinkle in his journalist eye right there.
Coming up, Lawrence Jones is in Battleground, Georgia, talking to voters about what matters most to them.
Plus, Jesse Waters joins us next as Democracy 2022 election night rolls on, folks. We'll be right back.
All right. Welcome to the show. I'm just doing a live tonight.
Fuzzy's Taco Shop is proof that some
I'll
of
be
the
right
best
back.
words are F words.
Go
like
grab my
awesome Baja tacos,
my
famous
drink.
queso, fire roasted salsa, fully loaded nachos and quesadillas, fresh ingredients, freaking weekends, finally unwinding with a Fuzzy Rita on your favorite Fuzzy's patio. For real though, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, anytime is the right time to put some Fuzzies where your mouth is. Try our new certified Sawsome Spicy Brisket Poblano Taco for a limited time. Fuzzy's Taco Shop. Chill at our place or order online today.
I knew you should have called a pro.
I got this.
Are you a contractor?
No, but I watch a lot of home improvement shows on Sling TV. I'm gonna need a forklift, a laser thingy, 5 tons of concrete, and a stud finder. Don't worry about a permit. The mayor owes me a favor.
With Sling, choose your channel lineup of live sports, news, and entertainment. Be confident it's the TV you love for a price you'll love.
We're gonna need lots of duct tape, the sticky kind.
Maybe too confident. Sling. Try us today.
Homeowners, when your water or sewer line breaks, it's expensive and often not covered by basic homeowners insurance.
You could pay thousands.
Finding a good contractor can be tough.
Want this guy doing the job?
With a plan from HomeServe, call us. We'll send a contractor, and there's no big bill.
Easy.
But don't wait. Get a plan from HomeServe before a line breaks.
Go online now.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $7.99 a month.
So we're about 7 minutes away from the next poll closings at 7:30 Eastern time, and we're still watching the vote count as it comes through in Georgia. You can see it scrolling along the bottom of your screen. So let's head to Alpharetta in the Central City Tavern, where Lawrence Jones is hanging out tonight. Hi, Lawrence.
Hey, good evening, my friend. The reason why we're here is because this was a place where the residents of Alpharetta hung out during the pandemic because they were shut down for about 4 weeks. But the reason why I mentioned that is because when you ask the voters, why is it not tight in the governor's race and it's tight in the Senate race, they say that they know Brian Kemp and he kept them open. He was business friendly. So let's talk with some of the voters on why they're voting for their candidate. How you doing, ma'am? So why are you supporting the current governor as well as Herschel Walker?
Supporting the current governor because he kept the state open during COVID. I have a lot of family in New York. Big difference, so I appreciate that he kept us open and kept the businesses open.
So why is the race so tight between Raphael Warnock as well as Herschel Walker, but it seems like the governor is just surging along?
I think that Herschel does not have the name recognition, at least politically. Football-wise, he does. I don't know about politically, but I hope he can pull it off.
Yes, ma'am. Sir, what's the #1 issue for the folks of Georgia?
I'd have to say it's inflation and the economy. Everything else kind of feeds off that. So for us, that was a big part of it.
And who are you going to support in the Senate race as well as the governor's race?
I'm going to give it to Kemp because, like she said, he kept our state open. He's very pro-business. Cut the gas tax, so he's done a lot of positive things. Herschel kind of is saying along the same lines, the same kind of business idea, so we're going to kind of go for him too.
Thank you. Ma'am, real quick, who did you vote for today?
Herschel and Kemp.
And the reason why?
Economy, inflation.
Wow. Thank you so much. So, guys, as you recognize, as we see in our national polling, it is the same thing in Georgia. It is not about Jim Crow 2.0. It is about the economy. Record turnout here in Georgia. I'll send it back to you guys in New York.
All right, Lawrence, thank you so much. I just want to point out one thing. The RNC is joining a coalition to file an emergency motion to extend poll hours in Maricopa County because of the earlier problems with the voting machines. We should point out Maricopa says that they've fixed them by now, but they say that hiccup, they want to extend the hours, and they've got a bunch of attorneys and volunteers on the ground working on this. We'll follow that to see if they do it. Joining us now, the man who usually sits here at 7 p.m., Jesse Waters, host of Jesse Waters Prime Time. Co-host of the Five. We should point out that these chairs are a little higher. You are taller than me.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was lowered by someone, and I'm not okay with that.
I wanted to make sure you.
Okay, thank you.
What do you think this election then?
Well, all I have are anecdotes, and they're positive anecdotes. And I saw Miami-Dade go red, and that's a pretty big deal. I think that's a pretty big deal. And Hemmer told me that if you get 2 of the 3 of the Virginia House races go Republican, we're looking at a wave. And if you get 3 of the 3 Republican, you're looking at a tsunami. So we're looking at that. And despite the Maricopa County shenanigans or incompetence, we don't know what it is at this point, I'm still hearing positive things about Republican turnout there. And I'm hearing very positive anecdotes from Nevada. Am I saying that correctly, Mr. Rove? Nevada? I think I am.
Yes.
So I had predicted on the 5 and on Jesse Waters Primetime 53, maybe 54 if Republicans get New Hampshire. You know, Rove was a little bit more, it's kind of a bedwetter, they call him, so he was only saying 51. But the anecdotes that I'm seeing and the early data shows me that we're looking at 53, possible 54 in the Senate, and maybe get up to as high as 240 plus.
Wow.
Yo, man. We don't really need any.
Try to the 20. I'm
We have nothing to.
I mean, do we have anything else? What else do we have, Hemmer?
So here's a little piece of information from Nevada, which is how we say it. Governor Sisolak's office just announced the early closure of state offices in northern Nevada because of weather, and the state GOP is crying foul on this with a statement below, concerned about him taking that action because of this snowstorm. They say it's not snowing that badly, and this is not required.
It's not as if they don't have snow in northern Nevada, for God's sake.
Handle it. Shut it all down from the governor who's running for office right now.
So you see a paradigm shift. You think the country changes after tonight, depending on what happens?
I do. It's going to be
It's a clear
powerful
indicator.
wave election, and it's just based on the economy and crime. It goes across every demographic.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
not like you're running on the Trump tax cuts or you're running on Obamacare. I mean, this
Right.
is something that touches every single American.
That's right.
And they've had it, and they're going to kick the guys out, and we could all see this coming, except for
Yep.
a few people who didn't see it coming. And then I think tomorrow the president's going to have to say something. He's going to have to come to the cameras and admit maybe something went wrong, and we'll see if he can own up to it. I doubt he will, though.
Jesse, what do you think about New York? You're a New Yorker now, live not too far from here. What do you expect to happen?
Well, I'm actually moving to New Jersey, so but I did vote today, and it's a toss-up. Crime's the dominant issue. I saw a lot of Lee Zeldin signs in Long Island. That's his stronghold. But I was recognized a few times in my deep blue Manhattan polling precinct, so I consider that an also positive anecdote. But Kathy is a lackluster candidate who just whiffs on crime and points fingers. And if we could get a Republican in the governor's seat in Albany here in New York, you could really turn the city and the state around.
Hey, Juan, why is the president not committing to a press conference tomorrow?
Well, I imagine that he has to say something. I mean, you know what the language for it is in the past has been, this, I took a whooping, I was devastated, whatever that you want to use in terms of a very active description. But I think the president has to, given what we've talked about in terms of results, get a sense of what it means not only for himself and whether he runs in 24. I don't want to get scolded like Britt Hume for looking too far forward.
No, I wasn't scolding him. I was just saying.
But I also think for Democrats in the House, for Pelosi's future, for what happens in the Senate, I think a lot of pieces are dynamic here, and I think the president wants to get a hold of it. One of the interesting things we can see out of the Fox data is, even though there's a high percentage of people still disapproving of the president, people aren't necessarily voting in that way. They're voting for Democrats even though they might disapprove of the president.
It's really nice to have this ticker because you have to wrap the comment. Okay. It is now 7:30 here on East Coast. Polls are now closed in 3 more states, including the pivotal state of Ohio. In Ohio, the Fox News Decision Desk says GOP candidate J.D. Vance has a slight lead, but the race is too early to call. He's up against Democratic House Rep Tim Ryan.
Let's go to North Carolina. Also too early to call this one in the race between Republican Ted Budd and Democrat Sherry Beasley. They are locked in a tight race there as well.
Moving to the governor's races and again to Ohio, we can project that Republican incumbent Mike DeWine will easily win a second term, defeating Nan Whaley.
It's interesting when you look at that governor's race in Ohio, he's running away with it, DeWine, and then when you look at the Senate race, it's super tight. Kellyanne, do you have a thought on that?
Well, sure. It's a state that Trump won twice by 8 points. But I think Mike DeWine, like these other incumbent governors who are getting reelected, you're calling these races early, they're seen as being competent. I still think that even though the Democrats counted on this election, Martha, as being the first post-Roe, post-pandemic, post-January 6th election, all in their favor, at the end of the day, this election is what it's always about. Do I have confidence in the competence of the people who are running the country? Right now, they know there's single-party rule in Washington. They're against that. And I think in Ohio, you see Governor DeWine having fended off a challenge from the right, a former congressman in the primaries, and having convinced Ohio voters that they should stick with him because he has been competent. I want to just go back to something that Jesse and Juan were touching on. I'm just astonished that when Bill Clinton and Barack Obama as presidents suffered grievous midterm losses, they at least died on a hill that they believed in. For Obama, it was, for President Obama, it was the Affordable Care Act. It was Obamacare. He believed in that. He lost all those seats in 2010. He lost seats again in 2014 on health care. For Bill Clinton, it was a big stimulus package and some moves to the left. There's no hill that Joe Biden is dying on this time as president that he took to the mat, that he said it's worth us losing 1 or 2 chambers because we did this. If anything, they passed things like the Inflation Reduction Act on a straight party vote. They did build back better. They spent trillions of dollars of money we don't have on things we don't need and didn't ask for. And yet, he's going to go down and lose press conference or no press conference, Juan. He should come out for no good reason. It's really remarkable when you compare him to past recent Democratic presidents.
Yeah, we're getting word that he is now going to make a statement. We don't know if he's going to take questions at the White House. Bill Hemmer, what do you got for us?
Hey, guys, got a lot going on here because things are really starting to roll in. Let me just take you through the map and try and tell you a story about what we think is developing. I want to start in Georgia because we're just starting to notice a bit of a trend here. Now, listen, it's early. Remember, in Georgia, you need 50%. If you don't get to 50%, there's a runoff 4 weeks from now on the 12th of December. This is about 11% of the vote in. Warnock's ticking about 60% of the vote so far. Based on the early returns, okay? You see Walker around 38.7. But let me show you the governor's race now, and just look at the percentages now. between the two. Because this could be significant throughout the night, okay? So Kemp's at 42.5 roughly. Let me go back to the Senate race, and you see Herschel Walker at 38. This seems to be for the past, I would say, just listen, it's early. But for the past 30 minutes or so, we seem to see Walker trailing Kemp's margin by about 4 or 4.5 points. So we'll watch that through the night as to whether or not there's some sort of pattern that we're picking up on there. You know, there's a lot of talk that Kemp could get above 50% and Walker would not. And we'll see whether or not that's the case as develops. A few other places up here. I want to go to New Hampshire because this first numbers we're seeing now, Maggie Hassan, the Democrat. Now, remember, a couple months ago, Republicans thought she was the easiest pick-off of the entire map. But it did not shape up that way. And Don Bolduc, the general, got in the race. He's been doing a ton of town halls all throughout the state. Polls in the last couple of weeks suggest that he's pulling close and that race is getting tight. Right now, it's early. It's early. Only 5% of the vote coming in. And we talked to Bolduc this week, and he was thinking about what we talked to the governor, Sununu, this week, and he was suggesting that down here around Rockingham County, that Bolduc is going to pick up some of the vote. He might be right about that, but right now, it's not showing up. And again, it's just early.
Bound, I got a plan loud and proud. People from all walks of life filling up the crowd. Defending Constitution, many warriors avow. Casting down any among us who have bucked and cow. Enough with tyranny, we come to take our country back. For all citizens, white, red, brown, or black. Return her to a former glory, fix the bloody crack on the crown. Touch it down, it's going down.
There was a time there where Dwight was on his back. You know, he was around the upper 30s, low 40s across the entire state. He made a heck of a comeback because he's a winner tonight in the state of Ohio. Let me check in on the Senate race right now here. All right, sorry, guys, you're at 0%. So between Tim Ryan and J.D. Vance right now, not a ton to talk about. Let me pop down to Florida because we're watching this. This is another really good example, okay? So statewide, Rubio is just under 53%. Now watch this in a moment here. I haven't seen this in a couple minutes. So you're 57% of the estimated vote in. The governor's race here is, okay, so DeSantis at 54.4, back to the Senate. They seem to be running a lot closer than Georgia for sure, but about a point off right there in Florida statewide. But at the county level, this is one of these things that we've been watching, right? You know, what's Miami-Dade going to do? Well, I mean, right now, they are going red in a significant way. This is a little more interesting than the rest of the state, only because Rubio's percentage is very close to where DeSantis is right now in Miami-Dade. So far, that is holding up in southeastern Florida. One state we haven't checked in on right now, that's the Senate race in North Carolina. Let's see what Ted Budd is doing against Cherry Beasley. Okay, so Ted Budd was a congressman. He left Congressional District 13, taking on Cherry Beasley. He used to be the head of the state Supreme Court. About a little more than 27% of the vote.
Tens of thousands on my right, thousands by my side.
So let's see
War
what
between good and evil, watching our fists collide. Battle for our freedom now, to the streets we ride. Flags waving all around, pages full of pride. This is what we make a stand. No one give a damn about races. Winning not the biggest problem we face. Take a real look at the nation.
Pretty similar number on a percentage basis.
I saw jumping a lady, she only 15, left for bloody and shaking. They wasn't wearing no rags. Nobody waving no flags. You ain't even gotta ask. It's black on black on black on blacks. Everybody wanna play victim. Blame everything on the system. Be a sad day when it hit them. Life could have been different if you would've listened to the information that we spit. Take it, keep it, chew it for a bit. Hold your head up, brother, never quit. Self-accountability, that's it. That'll get you all to the top. Then you really ball till you drop. Economic growth, man, I'm here to stir the pot. Say you wanna hear the truth, so I put it in a beat. Changing the culture every day of the week. Right now it's more like a vulture. Only prey on the weak, but we are here to exposure. Going down as I speak. No excuses, can't refuse this honesty that we seek. Y'all be like, facts are racist. Why y'all say this? You know it's true. Y'all just hate it. Facts are racist. Why y'all say this? You know it's true. Y'all just hate it. 13 road girls working on TikTok. You saying he just wanna learn how to crip walk. If you ain't talking about sex, then kick rocks. All they care about the chains and the wristwatch, they got us change. This is something only God can change. Don't get mad at me when I complain about how 4 and 5 black women on beats. Half of the murders us killing in the streets. Almost half of abortions too. This is a rap verse, but this is a warning too. And go against God like there's nothing more to do. But y'all don't care, y'all just really want abortions new. Wanna gang bang, do drugs, with drugs all above. Sell drugs till you in a jail cell, not a club. Now another single mother, cause we lost another brother. Sold to an undercover, kids gotta raise each other. This what you want for the future? Or are you trying to look cool on computers? Claim you a king, but blame the white man. When something bad happens, you feel like a loser. And keep voting the same way. Cause your parents did it too. Truth is your parents are ignorant too. And politicians know it, so now they got you. We changing the culture every day of the week. Right now it's more like a vulture. Only prey on the weak, but we are here to expose ya. Going down as I speak. No excuses, can't refuse this honesty that we seek. Y'all be like, facts are racist. Why I say this? You know it's true. Y'all just hate it. Facts are racist. Why I say this? You know it's true. Y'all just hate it.
Competence, right?
Yes, and it affects the Senate races. And in Georgia, for example, Brian Kemp he's going to win, it looks like. Pretty confident about that.
What are the next things we're going to do attack? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
These governor races.
They already hate us, so let's make them matter. They said we extreme, y'all hear the chatter. I pick Christ first and the rest don't matter. 2 a.m. we run up on my back, so going ultra maga. Make America godly again, that's my favorite MAGA. And I rap my Bible verses than your favorite pastor. Overturn Roe v. Wade, cut them babies matter. If I rapped about murder, I bet I'll be their favorite rapper. But I rap about God and family, so I get banned. Sorry that I don't believe a woman is a man. And this a war with good and evil, tell me where you stand. You know only the wicked flee, that's why I never ran. Ay, it's about the kingdom, not about the money. Ay, bigger than one man, it's about the country. Ay, they brought up inflation, buying found it funny. And they taking all of our freedoms, what you want from me? They push Lil Nas X just because he gay. And they push Cardi B to lead all your daughters astray. And they tell me I could be rich if I change what I say. I never wanted to be of the world anyway. They already hate us, so let's make them matter. They said we extreme, y'all hear the chatter. I pick Christ first and the rest don't matter. 2 a.m. we run up on my back, so going ultra maga. That's how I feel when parents have been overruled. Indoctrinating kids is better to be homeschooled. Just a bunch of pedophiles, how they get this stuff approved? Whooping son and Megan Joy, man, we need a different view. Education in our nation should be school choice. Let the girls be the girls, boys be the boys. On the Blake Shelton to the game, I was be the voice of the people. Get to sounding off like a desert eagle. Heard you coming out to me, guess I'm going Johnny Depp. I just smile while you lie, let the Lord be my rep. I keep swimming through the swamp like I'm Black Michael Phelps. Been about the Constitution since the day I left from Mel's, boy. Disrespect the team, I'ma check it. Candace Owens, I'ma pull up to your crib while I'm pregnant. It's a sham, everybody needs to flex it. 80 million votes impossible, no matter how you stretch it. Oh, yeah. They already hate us, so let's make them matter. They said we extreme, y'all hear the chatter. I pick Christ first and the rest don't matter. 2 a.m. we run up on my back, so going ultra maga.
It's a big MAGA party, we live Coachella. 2-8 with the Draco bullet train, get an umbrella. I stick the God's plan, no man was born a Cinderella. A rich Republican, you know I keep that mozzarella. Disney try to ban me, Pink Floyd try to ban me. Bryce ain't gonna drop this quick, I need a gram. All my patriots and infidels, you know we in the streets. A damn sixes did nothing wrong, we ain't no shit.
If you don't hate police, then everybody thinks you're whack. Everything's so connected. Black Lives Matter got so aggressive. White folks who agree can't support the message. Both sides go to war because they don't respect it. Our social climate from the global tension turned to total violence and a whole depression. We could unify and then I'll go against them, but we let them divide us with votes and elections. Hey, the music we bump, all about shooting guns and doing drugs. Hey, whoa. The things that we want are promoted subliminally through the songs like, you need a fast car, you need designer clothes, you need a rap star to tell you to start popping pills, hit the blunt and go live at the club till you're broke. It's all controlled by the elites, put fake news all over our screens, convincing the right to go fight with the left and distract from the fact it's each other we need. Divided by race and religion, segregated into teams. You a white supremacist. If you're not, I guess you Antifa.
Screaming from the rooftops, beat down better. Turn us on each other now, no lives matter. If we do what the news wants, blood gon' splatter. Turn us on each other till no lives matter.
Freedom's dead if you have an opinion, take it back. Facts. People hate the president. If you don't, then you trash. Indoctrinate the nation using news and mainstream rap. The government abuses us. It's all part of the plan. And it's so confusing. Black Lives Matter is a valuable movement, but all lives matter ain't racist or stupid. It's non-black humans who don't feel included. All colors fall under laws that govern the whole country, and we all suffer. We're all broke and nobody recovers until we accept that we're all brothers. Hey, the music we make, all about big booties and getting paid. Hey, whoa. We watch the news and it fills up our brains with violence and riots and race. Like this is a race war. You need to hate more. Get what you came for. You need some songs about Xanax and violence so you can escape more. What a vicious cycle we can't break away from. They control the culture, they control the paper. They're indoctrinating a whole generation till the patriots start to hate the nation. The music we love make us dumb and addicted. The news that we watch is brainwashing the children. The viruses, riots, and racist conditions ain't problems, they're symptoms of life in the system. Screaming from the rooftops, beat down better. Turn us on each other now. No lives matter. If we do what
If Biden got the country yelling, here's a message for Biden's administration of tyrants. Yeah, I know you try to keep us patriots quiet. You a dictator. Demand of a thief.
Still at home in Braddock, Pennsylvania. That's where he's from. That's where he's mayor. That's where he lives. And so he's not quite at this event tonight. He'll come here after the polls close at 8 p.m. Campaign tells us one of the counties they're really looking at here is Erie County, Pennsylvania. That's in the northwest corner of the state as a bellwether as to how things are going to unfold once they start to get some of these returns to come in and once that information begins to get public here. It's going to be a bit of a mess. At least that's what a number of election officials have been telling us statewide. There are 67 counties in Pennsylvania. They all have a little bit different way of counting ballots, and since 2020, when they went to a massive mail-in voting system, all have been doing and counting that in different procedures, and a little bit of that is coming out right now. Here in Allegheny County, officials tell us they had 155,000 mail-in votes come in. They managed to count all of them by 3 p.m. They have been out, like another outstanding 1,000 or so that they're going to work through counting and processing through the rest of the evening. That's the picture there. There is Luzerne County. They had a bit of a printing issue. They ran out of paper there, so that's the only county where they're going to have polls close at 10 p.m. tonight as opposed to 8 p.m. for the rest of the state. Big news here from the Fetterman campaign is that they sued a couple of days ago when it came to ballots and writing the date on the back of them. State law says when you sign in your mail-in ballot, you got to put the date on it. The Supreme Court sided with Republicans who sued and said you got to throw those ballots out. The Fetterman campaign is saying you got to count them. Back to you, Martha.
All right, Rich, thank you very much. We'll be back there throughout the night.
Shannon Bream has been tracking our Fox News voter analysis. You have the latest, Shannon.
Okay, Brett and Martha, here we go. Elections, and guess what? Voters are unhappy when they are asked about how they think the federal government is doing. Our Fox News voter analysis finds 3/4 are dissatisfied or downright angry at the way the federal government is working. So let's dig into this. This heat map tells us where those colors are most intense. That's where people are strongest in feeling this way. The sentiment is strongest in the Rocky Mountain and Northern Plains states. Wyoming, by the way, lodges the highest rate of disapproval with the federal government. 87% of people there say they're very unhappy, and that could be bad for incumbents for the White House for Democrats tonight. Now, in Georgia, one of those incumbents, Democrat Senator Raphael Warnock, is fighting for re-election, facing Trump-backed football legend Herschel Walker. Voters there say the balance of power in Washington, specifically how it's going to settle in the Senate, will actually shape their vote. More than half say it is the single most important thing that they're considering when casting a ballot. Now, among that particular group, folks are splitting their votes between the two candidates, so no advantage there. But Georgia is not the only state where people are on the lookout for that Senate seat, hoping to make a turnover and get rid of the incumbent, at least Republicans there. Now, in North Carolina, there's a competitive race for the seat that is about to be vacated by retiring GOP Senator Richard Burr. Democrat Sherry Beasley is challenging another Trump-backed candidate, Republican Ted Budd. Nearly 6 in 10 in the Tar Heel state, they've got a negative opinion of President Biden. Now, President Trump fares better there. Will that be enough to help Bud? Keep in mind, nearly 6 in 10 give Democratic Governor Roy Cooper a thumbs up on the job that he's doing. Will that help Beasley? We're going to hold up more data to crunch. It's all filtering in. But for now, Brett and Martha, back to you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. So why is everyone so unhappy in Wyoming, Dana?
Well, when Shannon said that, of course, that's where my family homesteaded in the late 1800s. And except for maybe that moment during the Homestead Act, I think that Wyoming's probably been at 85, 90% unhappy with the federal government since the beginning. That number doesn't surprise me at all.
Liberals, it's mental illness. The internet is only interested in left opinion. Cancel culture's got more power lately than the First Amendment. If you don't like it, leave. We will not defund police. We don't want no riots in our neighborhoods or in the streets. We respect freedom of speech. We protect what we believe. We don't want nobody dead, so please do not tread on me. In America, your freedom ain't free. In America, got soldiers dying overseas. So America, can say what we believe. My America, I won't ever take a knee. Our freedom is the reason you can disrespect our flag. If my stars and stripes offend you, then I'll help you pack your bags. America, does anybody know what the hell happened to the Patriots? Lately, this nation is so ashamed and hating itself. Did everyone forget that people died to pay for this? Ungratefulness, United States gave everything to you just to help. I just want to celebrate Thanksgiving with my family. I don't need your help to understand it was a tragedy. Can I just be thankful for my country eating happily without you trying to guilt me for the genocide and casualties? I can't help it, I just seem to see the world different. It ain't black or white, it's conflict designed by the system. I don't need your pronouns, all I see is men and women. Kids are taking pills for fun while people can't afford prescriptions. If you don't like it, go. Hate it, then don't call it home. We don't need no violence, got no time for all you radicals. Screw your status quo, we're not animals. I won't kneel for the anthem, cause the flag is what I'm standing for. In America, your freedom ain't free. In America, the soldiers dying overseas. So America, say what we believe. My America, I won't ever take a knee.
Some people are still voting across the country. Did Democrats do enough to tell Latinos, to explain to Latinos what was happening in the economy and to court their vote?
Tom, you know, it's good that we're having this conversation because we just got a poll that came out of Matt Barretto's shop at 5 o'clock. And this is the highest that we've ever seen among Latinos supporting Democrats. In fact, 65% of them supported the Biden agenda. That's among the highest of any demographic outside of the African-American community. One of the things that I think is going to be exciting, too, is that it is a Latino that is headed into Congress as the first Gen Zer out of Florida, and he is going to be an incredible progressive ally to AOC. We're seeing another young Latino coming out of Texas. His name is Gregorio Casar, also coming out part of the Democratic Justice Coalition. And what I'm looking for right now is how close is it going to be in District 35 and District 15 in South Texas? Overall, I think that there's always room for the Democrats and any party, quite frankly, to court the Latino vote. But I think it's going to be very close tonight. And we are seeing bumps specifically in Nevada and in Arizona, where the Latino vote is almost at par, as we saw in 2018. The dip is around young Latinos. Are they going to come out and meet those 2018 numbers?
But Maria Teresa, we showed up the exit polling and how Latinos thought that inflation was hurting them more than both white voters and black voters. How can you be so confident right now? I know a lot of the votes coming in that the Latino vote is going to be as strong for the Democratic Party as it has been in years past.
Well, because I have the data to share it with you. I mean, I could tell you that in Arizona, for example, we're seeing roughly about a 5,000 vote lag in the Latino vote in the Democratic side. You're only seeing about a pickup of 1,000 votes in the Republican side. So it's not a big, I would say, neither Southern Texas nor Florida is a bellwether for the Latino vote in Georgia, where the Latino vote and the Latino youth vote in particular is above the 2018 levels, as is it in Pennsylvania. And when we're seeing, again, the returns, this is hyperbole, the returns of where the Latino vote was in 2018 in Nevada and in Arizona, it's almost at par. What I was expecting coming in, I think you and I, we spoke about 3 weeks ago, what we were seeing track was basically 2014 numbers, which was abysmal. We were talking about 11% participation by young Latinos. That is not the case right now. And while you're correct, Latinos care very much about inflation, and they care very much about abortion. That's the very first time in our 18 years where we've been tracking Latino voters. It's the first time that abortion hits as a number 2 issue. And one poll that Voto Latino did just 2 weeks ago, we found for the very first time that 60% of Latinos are concerned with MAGA Republicans when it comes to democracy. And so when in places, again, like Nevada and Arizona,
That's not true.
MAGA folks are on the ticket.
That's
is
not
one of
what
the
I'm
reasons why
finding
we're
on the
seeing,
ground.
I think closer to 2018 levels than we would have had it not been a MAGA Republican on those tickets.
Abraham, the GOP has made major inroads, at least with their effort to court Latinos in these midterms. We've seen some of the shops they've set up throughout battleground states, but also in places like Texas and even in places in South Florida, which may no longer be battlegrounds.
Let me go back here to
for the
Fox.
Latino vote. What were some of the things the GOP did right in trying to get Latino voters over to the GOP?
Well, happy election day to both of you. It is a good night to be a conservative Hispanic in America. What did the GOP do right? They just simply showed up and they spoke about the issues. If there's anything that this midterm election has exposed, is that Democrats have a Latino problem, right? Polling shows that Democrats still have about a 20-plus point advantage with Hispanic voters, but it doesn't even compare to the 40% advantage that they had back in 2018. And part of the reason is because Democrats, you knock on the doors in Clark County in Nevada, or Maricopa County in Arizona, Hidalgo County in Texas, Miami-Dade in Florida, and polls are polls, but Latinos actually make up the polls, right? They influence the polls, and when you're speaking to them, knocking on doors, they're really frustrated with the fact that Democrats haven't knocked on their doors for years, right? And I agree with Representative Elisa, Democrat Representative Elisa from Michigan, when she said that her party hasn't done a good job of embracing economic opportunity and having that conversation with voters. And I actually agree with Representative Ocasio-Cortez when she said that Democrats haven't tried with the Latino vote, citing no immigration reform. But look, it really just comes down to the fact that the Democrat Party controls the presidency, the White House, this House, and the Senate. And at what point do you stop playing the blame game, actually start pushing policies that benefit the Hispanic community? We know Inflation Reduction Act hasn't done anything to support the Hispanic community. Our border isn't secure, and this Thanksgiving will be the most expensive Thanksgiving Latino homes will have in over 4 decades.
Guys, real quick, before we go, give me one race where you think Latino voters are going to make the difference for your side. Abraham, you first.
Texas District 34, the first Mexican-born Congresswoman in U.S. history, Republican Congresswoman Mayra Flores, up for re-election.
Maria Teresa?
I would say Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada.
I said one. You didn't play by the rules. Maria Teresa Kumar, thank you so much. Abraham, thank you so much. Guys, we do have some more exit polling data, and I want to show the board because I want to show the voters here and our viewers at home. We asked voters coming out after they voted, what do you think of President Joe Biden, his job approval? 45% approve, 55% disapprove. Again, this is still early data, but this is where we stand right now as we approach 8 o'clock. We also asked voters nationwide, do you think Biden's policies are mostly helping the country, hurting the country, or not making a difference? Hurting the country, the number one, 47%, followed by helping the country, 33%, but not making a difference, 17% as well. And then also we asked
administration driving this country into the ground. You know, it's not an America last, it's just out to destroy this place. So when we get there in January, we're going to take our America First agenda and put it back in place. Thank you. It's time we get back to energy independence by allowing our producers to drill here. We're going to fight the inflation by stopping the spending spree that's been going on up there. And we're going to pass a bill, if we're going to call it Inflation Reduction Act, by God, it's going to focus on reducing that debt and not be some crazy Democrat wasteful spending bill. Looking forward to securing our border, stopping.
That dude's boring.
Most of Pennsylvania in just a couple of minutes here in Luzerne County.
Diversity. We want to have diverse candidates, but we want the best candidates. And Kamala Harris didn't poll but maybe 1 or 2% when she ran for president. So she didn't even get any type of support. So
Polling places today ran out of printer paper for ballots, Tom. That's right. Might be shocking. A lot of local officials we talked to are shocked by this, but that did happen for about 4 hours at least in several of these polling places. Voters couldn't get those ballots printed out, couldn't submit the ballots, and so those hours have been extended. It's going to be a long night here, not likely to get results out of Luzerne County, not likely to get results out of Philadelphia. We're going to be waiting a while here, Tom.
Okay, Dasha Burns with phenomenal and incredible reporting. Dasha, I know it's going to be a late night, maybe a late week for you as well. We appreciate it. Guys, we have about 2 minutes left before we have to go to a break and before we start our coverage at 8 o'clock. Tara Palmieri from Puck, your thoughts almost as we approach 8 o'clock. What surprised you tonight so far?
There haven't really been a ton of surprises so far, mainly because the results haven't come in yet. I still think this is going to be a rebuke on the incumbency, but I think what we're going to figure out is if the president's messaging in the final week really worked, if people see democracy, if they see abortion, if they see more of these existential issues as more luxury items.
You have no right to throw in the American public's face democracy is on the ballot, because democracy died in this country decades ago. So that's a lie. I want everybody to understand that's a lie, lie, lie. The media lies through their teeth. They serve the establishment. They serve the corporatocracy. And there is no democracy in this country. And that's why I decided to go red. Because if they're going to play dirty, I, as a voter, will play dirty, because whatever it takes to get leverage with my vote, that's what I will do, because there is no democracy in this country. I don't know why they keep messaging this over and over and over to people as if somehow it's some kind of truth when it's not. There is no democracy in these United States. There is that MIT study that shows that the U.S. government does not work in favor of its people. It never has. And the closest we ever came, whether you like it or not, was Donald J. Trump. That was the closest we ever came to it.
We are coming up on those critical 8 p.m. poll closings. We're going to have so much politics for you tonight. We have a special coming up at 8 o'clock.
All right, let me go over to RSBN.
Coverage from our right side broadcasting studios, and not too bad we have here, right? I mean, people are used to seeing us walk around the rallies and up on the media rouser, but we have pretty good setup here.
Let's see, we've been in heat, we've been in freezing temperatures, snow, rainstorms, you name it, but now we're inside, Brian. It's nice to be inside and air conditioning.
I'm not going to lie to you. There's been some rallies I've said, this was my last one for a while. I'm tired of being cold. I'd be good for that, because it is a struggle sometimes covering these rallies in the conditions that we cover.
Wait before he says something. And Tara, former President Trump already trying to make this night about himself.
Right. I saw an interview on a right-leaning network, I think OAN, and he was asked, how will you interpret the results? If they're bad, not my fault. If they're good, it was because of me. So I think you're going to get exactly what you think you're going to get from Trump.
Classic Trump line. All right. Quick update. I'll be joining Savannah Guthrie, Lester Holt, Chuck Todd, and my co-anchor, Hallie Jackson, who's already over there. Our NBC
Trump's right. If you lose, it's probably because there's foul play. And if he wins, if it flips to the red, it will be his fault, because he's the one who went around this country endorsing candidates. It was because of his endorsement is why anybody came out to vote. No one came out to vote for these Republican candidates because no one loves the Republican Party at all. But people came out because Trump said, hey, vote for this guy. It's okay. And that's the truth. That's what he means.
The state of the economy, Republicans may be poised to regain power tonight.
May be poised, not may. It's a done deal.
2022. Millions of Americans voting at the polls and by mail.
Democracy on the ballot.
The question to be answered tonight: who will control Congress?
You know who did a really good breakdown of democracy on the ballot? Jimmy Dore. Let me cut over to Jimmy Dore real quick. Right? Jimmy Dore did a good breakdown of what the whole thing of democracy is on the ballot, how silly it was. How stupidly silly.
Trying to cling to a razor-thin margin of control in both this.
There it is, Michael Moore.
I'm going to stand up for the best in the American spirit.
Democracy is on the ballot this year.
Democracy on the ballot.
On offense, aiming to seize the upper hand once again.
They're fleeing these failed states because these states don't work.
With the influence of the former president looming large.
President Trump taught us how to fight, and I took a few notes.
What that means for the direction of the country.
High drama and high stakes.
Now, Michael Moore is a literal schizophrenic, I'm going to guess, because he'll tell you what's wrong with the Democratic Party, and then he'll tell you that you have to vote for them
He's
constantly.
just a weasel, but I don't
He's
think
just a weasel.
He's right. He's right. It's just that he is a weaselly guy as a guy outside of any politics,
Even inside politics.
and pretty much everywhere.
So here, watch what he has to say about if you want to know why the Democrats are in jeopardy of losing to the Republicans, the Democrats pretend like they have no idea. Let's watch. Let's watch.
Biden won by 7 million, the popular vote. Hillary won the popular vote by 3 million.
Yep.
So what would have to have changed to all of a sudden, all these millions of Democrats on Tuesday are going to want Trump back?
What happened is that their lives got worse. They did COVID lockdowns, vaccine mandates. They made their lives a living hell. They got them fired. They lied to them at the behest of their corporate donors. They didn't give them health care. They didn't give them a minimum wage. They didn't decriminalize marijuana. They didn't get rid of student debt. They didn't give the $2,000 checks, but they did give $100 billion to the most corrupt country in Europe, while telling us we can't have nice things. Do you understand? That's why the Democrats are. But he doesn't understand that. He goes, what changed? What changed is that's the problem. Nothing changed. People's lives got worse, not better. Kurt?
Also, with regard to the 3 million extra votes, I don't know if Michael Moore knows our perfect system called the Electoral College, but it literally doesn't matter on any level that they got the 3 million popular votes.
Doesn't matter. So watch, he keeps going on pretending he's trying to bullshit you into thinking that a lot of Democrats are going to come out and vote and they're going to win.
No, but hang on a second. You're a kitchen tables kind of guy, right? I mean, you're describing yourself as
even
when all 3 homes.
When an MSNBC host has to push back against your pro-Democratic Party bullshit, you know you stink. Here we go.
You're not in a bubble. You're out and about.
Too much at the kitchen table.
Why do you believe that voters are going to turn out for Democrats if the kitchen table issues like higher gas and food prices are top of mind?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because I'm asking them to.
I'll tell you why, because I got really in trouble for my thing about green energy.
I love Jimmy Dore, man.
By pretending
I love Jimmy Dore.
Electoral College works.
Here we go.
The American people, they're treated like they're a bunch of dummies.
Yeah,
and
we
that's
are.
What he's doing right now.
Yeah.
This is called projection.
We are treated like dummies.
He's trying to bullshit voters right now into pretending that the Democratic Party is about democracy instead of what they're about is imperialism, empire, corporatism, and war.
Isn't he doing it consciously, though? I think he's faking it consciously.
I think he's doing it consciously. Yeah, he's lying right now.
Idiots. Okay, now granted, there's 330 million people in the country, maybe a good 80 to 90 million aren't very bright.
So he just said half the country's dumb.
So that's who he's talking to right now.
So instead of that, do you understand that Michael Moore is now
So in the same breath, listen, I want you to see why I walked away from this Democratic/leftist type of thinking that's going on right now in this country, right? I used to call myself a Democrat. I used to call myself that. I used to call myself a supporter of the blue team. I used to do that. But when you see this level of delusion that goes on from them, where they're so oblivious to why people are fed up and why people are upset and why people feel that their issues haven't been heard and why people are not getting served in this country, right? To the point where people had to go vote for a TV show host celebrity. You pointed at the celebrity as the problem? This is the delusion I'm talking about that you have. You refuse to accept that the 50% of this country or more who are upset with the way things are going in this country for the last 60 years, this just doesn't happen when Trump became president. Get that out of your head. People like me who are intelligent and read and watch and observe and pay attention to what's going on globally, economically, and locally. like a hawk and get involved in debates and arguments and go back and forth. When we see what's going on and the level of delusion and blind loyalty that's coming from both sides, by the way, I don't just want to exclude Republicans, because this is what I'm trying to come back to. This is why they tried so hard to demonize the MAGA movement. By the way, in case you don't know what MAGA stands for, Make America Great Again. And when I asked about it, when I inquired, when I went to investigate, when I went to the rallies, when I went and spoke to Trump supporters, when I went to seminars and events and all these things, and I went to chat rooms and I went to forums and I asked, I used my mouth and I asked, can you explain to me what you want? What does it mean? Because when I watch the news tells me that you're a MAGA extremist and you're a white nationalist and all this stuff. And when I heard these people talk to me and tell me that they're just fed up with the way things are in this country, they feel like their vote doesn't matter, their vote doesn't count, that nothing the government does seems to affect them in a positive way. They struggle financially. People have been losing homes. People are homeless. People can't seem to put enough fuel in their vehicle to go to work. People are struggling at every level, that they're so fed up that they were willing to take a chance on a game show host, which is the orange man bad guy that you all talk about. And instead of trying to open your eyes and your heart and your understanding to try and reach across the United States aisle, fictitious aisle, and say, you know what? Maybe you and I have something in common. Maybe you and I have the same concerns. We maybe differ in opinion on who we want to run the show, but guess what? We have 2 years of you getting what you wanted. 2 years of Mr. Joe Biden in office. 2 years of it. And literally, you could watch the chart, the data, go from here to like, boom, right down. There's nothing hidden. It's in your face. And then you're gaslighting us, telling us that we're crazy, like Michael Moore just said. First, Michael Moore just said, I love Michael Moore. I grew up literally watching Michael Moore movies. When Michael Moore did that George Bush documentary about the votes being stolen from Al Gore in Florida, I was all on board. I watched it. I was screaming from the hilltops, Michael Moore is right. When Michael Moore did the Twin Tower documentary, I was on board. I felt the pain, the hurt. When Michael Moore talked about where he's from, is it Michigan? Where the Rust Belt, where people were losing their lives and falling into drugs, and the factories closed down and moved to Mexico. Michael Moore is a good guy. He shed a lot of light on stuff that made us aware. But where I have to disagree with Michael Moore at this stage, and the same like Jimmy Dore right now, is why this delusional push for blind loyalty to a party who has never, ever initiated policies to make our economic situation better, and creating more wars around the world that we should have no business dealing with, removing independence on ourselves locally, and putting ourselves in the hands of the Chinese and the Russians more and more every day, and OPEC, which is all OPEC. In case you don't know, OPEC is like the Arabian conglomerate of oil, petroleum, and we're selling ourselves off. We're parting ourselves out. And these same politicians are getting on television and telling us to our faces that I'm crazy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just uneducated. I don't know anything. I'm just a redneck, potato-eating, dumb, stupid idiot with no thought process, no analysis or a capacity for analysis. Therefore, I have no right to a vote. I have no right to speak. I've been censored on every platform, every step of the way. Ever since Elon took over Twitter, I've been fine. So I don't know. That might be a temporary whatever. But I want to tell you something. It should speak to something when you see this level of ignorance where American citizens have been turned on each other to fight each other, when the ones we need to be looking at are sitting in Washington. You and I don't need to be fighting. So what? You like Joe Biden and I like Trump. Big effing deal. Politicians at the end of the day are going to be politicians. What my thing is, why are we not putting the foot on their necks? Why are we allowing them to make each other put foots on each other's neck? That's what's angering me. That's where my passion is coming from. And the second thing is, I'm not going to let people in the United States of America, land of the free, home of the brave, tell people like me what I can and who I can and cannot vote for. That's my main protest. My main protest is you can't shut me up. You can't ridicule me and make me think I don't have a voice, because I was born in this country to have that privilege. All of us were. Same for you. And I will die to protect your right, as I hope you would die to protect mine. But what I've been watching ever since COVID started, ever since that whole thing started, was 50% of Americans have been slowly backing away into the darkness, allowing the thought process of it's okay to shut some people up if they don't speak the things we want to hear. And the second thing of delusion that I don't like, that eats me at my core, is the blind willingness to be blind to any corruption simply because it's your team. I'll tell you right now, I'll be the first to throw the entire Republican Party, even the MAGA movement, under the bus if I find out any shenanigans. The first one to do it. And believe me, all parties are guilty of corrupt behavior. All politicians have been involved in some scandal one way or the other, because right now it's down to one thing for me. Who is promoting sovereignty, freedoms? Who is promoting policies that's going to take us out of war? Who is promoting policies of diplomacy between other nations so that we don't have to go starting all these wars for the industrial military complex? Who is going to promote pumping money back into our own country, investing into ourselves for better infrastructure, for better schools, for better medical care, for better everything, technology? Who is going to stimulate and incentivize our local economy? Who is going to be selfish enough to say that we, America, have to become number one? We may not be. We're like 32nd right now, and it should be ashamed of that. And we're busy here talking about, listen, this country is a business. At the end of the day, this country is a business, right? The country, there is no virtue in it. We have no moral leg to stand on as a nation. That's the honest truth. Where is the morality in what we have done? And you as a lefty, you should know what I'm talking about. Look at all the blood that we have spilled. And to have this iPhone, I allowed people to be slaves to make this iPhone for me. So I have no moral superiority. I cannot come at you from a moral stance. I cannot speak to you from a virtuous platform, which is what the Democrats do. This is what the so-called blue team does. The I'm better than you argument. What the hell are you talking about? Better than who? For what? What beliefs? What ideologies have you presented that has made the world a better place today? Besides acting as if you're all holier than thou because you believe that certain skin colors should have certain access to things, and we should punish another skin color because in the past this skin color was bad to that skin color. What are you talking about? Where did all this nonsense come from? This is America. Land of the free, home of the brave, the Constitution of these United States. That's what we should be all fighting together to uphold and to promote. Don't tell me about democracy on the ballot. Don't you dare tell me about democracy on the ballot. I will fight you with my words, not physically, unless you touch me. But I'm not going to let you stand there and tell me to my face that democracy is on the ballot. Since when? Give me an exact date when democracy was taken off the ballot. Because as far as I can remember, when I look at the way we run this country and the way we treat the citizens of this country, with my wide open eyes, what about us shows that we are a democracy? Honest to God. And I want the people who identify as the blue team, I want the blue team people, when you see this, if by some chance you see this, tell me, when did we ever have democracy in the United States? And when did we make policy that benefited the communities that are in need of resources in this country? Veterans, the homeless. Take a very close look. The problems got exacerbated under the Democratic ran cities. That's not a lie. That's factual. I'm not making that up. I've traveled to these cities. I've noticed the increase and the differences within the last 6 years. I've watched the decay. You all cannot sit there and tell me that you're living in this country with your eyes closed, going to work every day, paying your bills, paying taxes, putting gas in your car, buying food, and having a hunky-dory time. But hey, democracy's on the ballot. Ain't nothing wrong over here. By the way, we're in the middle of getting into World War III. Oops. And you know what these so-called blue people tell me with a straight face? It was because of Donald J. Trump. He's the cause. He's the reason. Really? Is he? What did he do besides run for president? And when the guy was in office, I watched with my own eyes. I watched it with my own eyes. I watched everything that guy did from A to Z like a hawk, because initially I was trying to find dirt on the guy because I'm a journalist. I was trying to build an entire show around that guy. I was trying to go viral with that guy. And instead, what I ended up finding out was that he was like the stick in the mud. Because Trump would say something and he would just initiate it. Whether I agree with it or not, he would just initiate an action. And then you would watch the entire Washington machine and media machine circle itself around him and start attacking him and fighting him down. Oh, he wants to create peace in Israel. We can't do that. Or he wants to put the embassy in Israel. I watched it with my own eyes. I didn't have to agree with a lot of the policies he initiated. That's not what my concern was. My concern was I started watching how the entire environment circled itself around Trump, and the environment exposed itself. The environment. That's why I have to say thank you, Trump. I thank him all the time. I even pray and I say thank you, Trump, because you exposed the entire system for what it was all this time. By him just taking an action or just taking an initiative or saying something, he was able to stir so much chaos within the establishment that the establishment was running, trying to build a narrative, trying to pull this and a resource and that and attack him and fight him down and stop this particular bill from leaving here and stop that. All the stopping that was going on around Trump. That's what drew my attention. That's what pulled me into awareness of what was going on. That's what I saw. That's what woke me up. I was already awake, to be fair, but that's what stood out to me. That was it. Let's finish up this video real quick before I leave.
A tool of the oligarchy to divide the country. He's just a partisan. He can't tell the truth unless it lines up with his partisan view. He has to lie to you. He thinks that you're stupid while he calls half the country, half the voting populace stupid. He's not saying half the country, which is what he really is. Yeah. But he's trying to say, oh, just the 81 million people who don't vote the way I want them to. They're dumb. Not that they have concerns, not that they were desperate enough to vote for a game show host, but that they're just dumb. There's no other reason why they would vote for him. They're just dumb.
Have you ever spoken to any of his former employees?
Right? Yes. Yeah. They all say Mike.
He's an aspiring oligarch.
Here we go.
Offense to those of you watching who aren't bright, but that's, you're watching MSNBC, so I'm making an assumption that you know what's going on. But
the opposite is true of what he just said.
The opposite is true of what he just said. He said, I'm making the assumption that since you're watching MSNBC, you know what's going on. The host just had to push back against your own bullshit. The MSNBC host. You mean the MSNBC that wouldn't let a Russiagate skeptic on for the whole 4 years? You mean MSNBC that lies about everything at every turn? You mean MSNBC Rachel Maddow actually had to go to court and tell the court that what she says isn't real? That's what, just like Tucker Carlson, Rachel Maddow did the exact same thing.
They all got the thing of you're all too stupid and we have to lie. I'm doing a noble lie right now.
So this is Michael Moore believes it's okay. He's actually doing the thing he claims Republicans are doing. He's treating you like you're stupid.
Yep.
Here we go.
That's exactly the whole thing.
That means there's over 200 million of us that aren't stupid. And you cannot tell people that, gas prices, price of eggs.
Vote for me or you're stupid. Is that a great campaign slogan? I don't think so. And now he's going to dismiss working people's economic desperation. He's going to dismiss it right now. He's doing it right now. Watch, Kurt. Watch it. Watch this.
People that, gas prices, price of eggs. Yeah, if you're a woman, you're going to say, I'm going to just give up. I'm going to give up my rights. My bodily autonomy rights to get those price of eggs down another 20 cents.
We did a better job making nonsense dialogue for Bill Maher thing that you showed before than he did on that just now. That's something I would parody. I would write that line.
He's almost so dumb you can't parody it. It's so incoherent that women who have children but they don't care about the prices of things.
And
that's what. So you're just dismissed. So he thinks this is helping. He's so dumb. He doesn't know this is actually hurting. What you should do is say the Democrats care about prices and they care about inflation and they understand that when gas goes up to $8 a gallon, it's going to screw you over and you'll have to make decisions between medicine or heat or electricity or schooling or food or rent.
They being stupid.
But he's going to say you're stupid if you care about that the only thing women care about is abortion. Then that's it. Because that's all the Democrats have to run on. They can't run on anything else.
I think he's talking about mandatory boosters. He was talking about abortion.
Yeah. It's hot in here.
Yeah.
It's not how people think. They love this country. They love this democracy. They do not want to lose it on Tuesday.
And I agree with you.
How would the election is democracy. Voting is proof that we have democracy. And these are just scare tactics from fucking propagandists and willing tools of the oligarchy, because that's what he is.
Do you want to hear a blast from the past? I just remembered because of, gerrymandering, the other thing of our amazing election system that I guess now is considered a Republican thing, but when I was a kid, I remember my dad listened to Rush Limbaugh, and Rush was complaining on and on about how Democrats keep gerrymandering. The thing that either of them could try to stop, but they're never going to end it. The real.
So Michael Moore has more dumb stuff to say, and I hate that I have to get to it.
But I was listening to a correspondent based in Georgia who was bringing us sound bites from people in terms of,
here we go.
I have to reach out to some friends of ours that gave up on voting a long time ago. They don't like to vote.
He has to reach out to friends of ours who gave up on voting. What's your message, Michael, to people who gave up on voting because they voted for Barack Obama twice and their lives got worse? Those are black people in Milwaukee. What is your message to those people who quit voting? Because we showed you that the black people in Milwaukee wouldn't vote for Barack Obama, and they voted for Barack Obama twice, and they wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. That's how Donald Trump got elected. That's how she lost Wisconsin, not because of black and brown people. We're done. And this is his advice to those people. This is his way to get those people to come back and vote Democrat. You ready? What's your message to black people in Milwaukee who stopped voting after they voted for Barack Obama twice and their lives got worse? Here's his message.
Just say, will you just do this for me? Just as a favor. Just as one.
Anything for you, Michael Moore.
Whoa, sure. You mean you don't have a reason why I should? You just gonna beg me as a personal favor? Yes, he doesn't have a reason. I'm gonna play it for you again, so we get a whole running start at this.
They don't like to vote, and just say, will you just do this for me? Just as a favor, just as once. You can go back to non-voting.
So then what would be the point?
The way to really, if you're upset.
That's it. That's
and
all.
Then you can go back to non-voting.
And then go back to non-voting. That's it.
What kind of a...
Why would someone do that for you if there's nothing in it for them? Why would they do that?
And then go disenfranchise yourself after.
Yes.
Well, what if I'm a felon, Michael Moore? And
How about do this for me? You'll vote. You'll see that it makes a difference, and then you'll want to vote again. No, he goes, I get it. Nothing's good.
I know when word hits the street that Michael Moore is looking for a favor, you're going to see a lot of that black.
That's kind of, isn't that stunning, Kurt? That is stunning that he didn't have
Even for MSNBC, the lady's stunned talking to him.
With Biden, you know.
And so if you're upset with the job Biden's doing, or the job that Barack Obama did, this is his message for you. Listen to this message. This is almost unbelievable. Again, it's so dumb you can't parody it. But this is what a guy sounds like when he's lying to you because he's a partisan and he can't tell you the truth about this election because he doesn't want to lose his place in polite society and he wants to get invited to the Oscars and the Emmys and all the That's what this is about, and he wants to be able to raise money for his next movie.
I would like to say that watching this makes me realize I owe Stephen Colbert an apology for that vaccine musical number that I thought insulted my intelligence, but I now see was the highest respect.
Yes. Okay, back to Michael Moore. Watch this.
I have to reach out to some friends of ours that gave up on voting a long time ago. They don't like to vote, and just say, "Will you just do this for me, just as a favor, just this once? You can go back to non-voting." But you know, and the way to really, if you're upset with Biden, you know, then let's get a strong Democratic Senate in there, and those Democrats are going to make sure that Biden.
There's already a strong Democrat Senate. The Democrats had 2 years, baby. The Democrats have been running the show this far. You see the results? But hey, that's right, Michael Moore. I'm stupid. You're right. I'm just a French fry eating, dumb, redneck, gun-toting, pickup truck driving, tobacco chewing, spitting, damn ass, dumb white boy with no brain in my head, no analytical or critical thinking skills, no observational capacity. I'm just stupid. Isn't that right, Michael Moore?
Fulfills his campaign promises. So
if you vote for more Democrats in the Senate, they're going to make sure that Biden fulfills his campaign promises. Do you know the majority of the Senate is Democrat right now, and not one of them is pressuring Joe Biden to fulfill his campaign promises? Bernie Sanders is not pressuring him. The squad is not pressuring him. Elizabeth Warren is not pressuring him. No one is pressuring the Democratic president to do effing anything. And so he's just talking like an asshole now. He's just an asshole. That's what an asshole would say to someone who you're trying to get to vote. You'll just lie to them. That's a lie. You're not helping America by lying to people into voting against their own interests. He's just an asshole. Go ahead.
I just realized that if instead of saying all this, he declared a sex strike, that would be less embarrassing.
That would be less embarrassing.
Michael Moore's on sex strike unless you...
I just can't believe the amount of lack of integrity you have to be to go on and just lie. That's like a politician lying.
Yeah,
that's the politician level lying. And he's not even a politician, and he's not doing it after he's drunk at a bar. He's doing it on television sober, and he's telling you someone else is dumb. He's telling you someone else is insulting your intelligence. This is amazing.
This is a guy going...
That guy has no regard for you.
I know everybody's dumb, so I see his hamster wheel turning in his head. So
this is interesting.
Anything that'll help, and they're so stupid. Maybe Michael Moore. I'll just say whatever I think a stupid idiot would maybe go for.
Yes.
So I'm switching between MSNBC and Fox News, and I kind of notice that everything seems skewed towards red on Fox, and then everything seems skewed towards blue on MSNBC. Now, I wish there was a way I could simultaneously... Hold on. Let me see if I could do this real quick. All right.
For higher prices, as well as a rise in crime in some of Wisconsin's largest cities. But Barnes is going to be counting on voters in
So, Vermont. Well, Vermont's blue. We know that.
Between Democratic Governor Tony Evers and Republican businessman Tim Michels, very prominent in the Badger State. That could be even closer than the Senate race. Polls here in Wisconsin close in about 30 minutes, Brett and Martha. But this is not a state that's known for quick vote counts, so it could be a long one here and for all of the campaigns that we're following tonight.
Brady, thank you. We'll check back with you a little bit later tonight.
Over to Colorado now. Democratic Senator Michael Bennet, the incumbent, is hoping to fend off a challenge from Republican Joe O'Dea. Jeff Paul standing by at O'Dea's campaign headquarters. Good evening, Jeff.
Yeah, good evening, Brett. Polls here in Colorado about to close in about 30 minutes, and so far we've seen pretty much a steady stream all day of folks showing up to polling places like this to drop off their ballots, and each of those votes is really going to matter, especially when it comes to this U.S. Senate race, which in the last few days, some polls have shown has really started to tighten. Now, on one side, you've got the Republican challenger, Joe O'Dea. He's a CEO of a construction company, and what makes his candidacy really interesting is that he is not only running without the support of former President Donald Trump, but he has said that if Trump runs again, he will actively campaign against him. On the other side, you have the Democrat who was appointed to the job in 2009, ran twice, Michael Bennet, and he is ready to move on to his third term and has really spent a lot of time as of recent vocally saying that he disagrees with Biden on certain key issues, especially how he's handled the border.
Particularly the senatorial race between Senator Cortez Masto and Adam Laxalt. As we talk about everywhere, all across the country, this is going to come down to a game of turnout. And there was a lot of worry. In fact, John Ralston, the dean of the Nevada Press Corps, has said the turnout is depressed, but that's not what we're seeing here at all in this mall called the Galleria inside of Henderson. This is what's known as a vote center. Let me show you. I think we got to look from above as well. If we give you that shot from above, you can look down. I'm over here in your bottom right-hand corner waving to you from the American flag. These are 30 different polling places inside this one particular location. There's 128 of these all throughout Clark County, Nevada. It's actually a pretty novel concept. There's 914 precincts in Clark County, Nevada, but you can show up at any of the 128 different voting centers just like this, and they have said that the lines are extraordinary, actually, in terms of this time of year. So follow me. Let me show you, actually, as a matter of fact. Come check this out. So this is where everybody is going to vote. But over here, and by the way, Merry Early Christmas, as happens sometimes in shopping malls. Election day is kind of like Christmas for some of us who are believers in democracy, and this is really democracy in action. Look at this over here. This is one room, only one of the rooms here where people are still waiting in line. I'm not a very good crowd counter, but there have got to be hundreds of people that are snaked around in here, and this is basically the middle of the line. How long have you been waiting?
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Okay, so you're almost there. Good luck. She's about halfway, and there's a little bit of ways to go. Come and check this out. Earlier tonight, the line ended, Savannah and Lester, right about here. Now it's 3 times as long. Let's keep going this way. I talked to Joe Gloria, the registrar here in Clark County, Nevada, just yesterday, and he was saying that, you know, all this talk about election integrity and perhaps a lack of it would depress turnout here. It doesn't seem to be the case because he says, look, the elections are fair, they're safe, they're reliable, they're accurate, and indeed, it looks like the people, at least in Henderson, have decided they're coming out and they are coming out in force. There's still an hour and a half until polls close. If people show up here and they get inside by that time, in fact, get in line by that time, they are going to be allowed in and going to be allowed to cast the ballot. One thing that does mean if it's a close election, however, is we may not have final results out of Clark County for at least 10 days. That is state law that says a slow and deliberate count is necessary in order to have a fair and accurate result. Savannah, Lester?
Yeah, Jacob, watching you walk to that mall, all I could do is smell Cinnabon.
I know. I was going to ask him for an Orange Julius, but that's quite an 80s reference right there. Okay.
You don't have
we already have one, Savannah. We already have one.
Make a projection, but it is neck and neck. In Ohio, that is a red-leaning state.
He's run a campaign, and the race is not over, so I'm going to say ran. He's run a campaign on the economy, on helping everyday Ohioans get to higher ground and make life better for their kids. That's the kind of campaign that Democrats, when they did win in
because it's
Ohio,
important to me. And I think that is so cool. That's like a nice thing.
in
I do think that what you're seeing is huge interest in this race.
we see it in the early votes. We also see it in the spending, right? Politics is money. This is going to be the most expensive midterms ever that we've ever seen, right? And that is not traditionally something that we see for the midterms.
Inflation.
Yes, less than $10 billion in that number. But you also have to look at it, and we're seeing it in the exit polling too, what people are driven by. Why are they turning out? And this is maybe less of a happy note than like yay voting, right? And it's really about people being driven by anger and by fear. That is what our pollsters are telling us. And by the way, we now have data. That is what is happening today. We have these exit polls here that we can pull up that show that people in both parties are giving both parties thumbs down, right? The majority of voters in both parties. You've got Republicans who think Democrats are too woke, Republicans who think Democrats are too extreme. That is what is driving people out to those long lines, whether they're standing here in person or whether they mailed in their ballots.
And at the same time, some Democrats who you would not think are extreme are considered as extreme, like Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, is considered as extreme as Don Bolduc, even though the Republican popular Senator John Sununu, whose race we just called him a conspiracy theorist, his own candidate, his own, running mate. So you've got candidates who are viewed negatively by voters in both parties, and the president. Also, the president is a real drag on the ticket. We see in the exits from Ohio. And this is typical of a first-term president in his midterms, and that's something that we should show as the context here. Presidents in their first terms lose big in the midterms. Those are the historic trends. And so Joe Biden should be poised not to do better than historic trends.
And yet,
the Democrats
as
are
we found
hoping.
in the NBC News poll recently, that the Democrats closed that enthusiasm gap. And Chuck, you were talking about that yesterday, the enthusiasm. What was it?
Hey, it's Karl Rove. See what Karl Rove got to say.
Would not be involved in the race. McConnell invested $35 million in the race, and which would have been useful to spend elsewhere, but Vance needed the help because he won the primary with less than 30% of the vote and was being challenged by Ryan.
Worth noting that Vance was one of the candidates who had criticized McConnell.
Right.
And McConnell weighs in with...
All right. I've had about enough of all this news and statistics for one night. I think I want to make it a wrap. I want to be clear about something. I mean, if you are watching this show, but according to my app, it says I have one viewer. Who that viewer is, I don't know, but thank you. I think that it's not right that the media has gone out of their way to block the reality of what's on the ground in this country. And you heard that last lady said that the exit polls show that people were frustrated. People are upset with both parties. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And a lot of the voting that's happening is out of anger. Same with me. A lot of my voting was people telling me who I can and cannot vote for, telling me that my perception is crazy and that I'm an idiot or that I'm not intelligent or that I don't know what I'm talking about. You fueled me. You actually kicked me in the gear to say, okay, well, I'll prove you wrong. Let me go on an investigation spree, which I did 6 years ago. That's how I got here today. So I don't understand why the need to belittle other people. I don't think just because you vote Democrat or you're an independent or you're a Republican or whatever, I don't think of you as less. I don't do that. I don't think of you as less than me because you have a difference in opinion or a difference in ideology. I respect you. I give you that much dignity and respect when I approach you and when I talk about politics or we have a debate or an argument. But what I've noticed is the reverse. You call me conspiracy theorist, you could tell me I'm a Nazi, you tell me all these different labels you slap on me. And that I'm not intelligent, and that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm not a professor, and I didn't go to school, and I didn't study political science. And that's where you lost me. Because when we came to the table, I saw you as my equal. I saw you as somebody who was willing to have a discourse about the issues in this country and possible solutions. But that's not what I was met with. I was met with, I am inferior to you. I am less than you. And right away, if you come at me with that attitude, good luck budging me on any situation or in any topic. Because at that point, it's war. It is. At that point for me, if you come at me with such aggressive, righteous indignation and like virtue signaling and acting as if somehow you're holier than thou and you're better than the rest of this country and you know better, that's tyrannical. That's a tyrannical force. That means that you think yourself to be like a god, that you have all the answers and that you know what's best for everyone, and that censorship is okay, and that excluding certain people because they may not think like you think is good. I didn't like that. And I saw it ramp up. I saw that kind of thinking ramp up or get exacerbated by the pandemic. And that's why I sprung into action. That's why I got passionate. That's why I got hardcore into this. Because I knew the work the groundwork had to happen. People like me had to start coming forward and speaking up and saying, this is not right. You cannot treat your fellow American this way. And then you throw in my face the whole January 6th thing. And I say to you, that was an isolated incident that took place at the Capitol. And by the way, nothing was wrong. You're allowed to protest because people have been protesting months leading up to that incident. Right? And they were dealt with the same way. There was killings, there was incidents, there was bombings, there was burning of cities. That incident, somebody got killed at the Capitol. Let that investigation take place with that institution, with that scenario. But you don't make everybody who is there guilty by association. That's where I draw the line. That's where I had to pump your brakes and say, hey, you know the Ashley Babbitt thing and whatever happened? I agree with you. Let's investigate. Let's find out why the police weren't called to the Capitol until it was too late. Let's find out what happened. Who ushered in those people inside the Capitol and why? Let's find out who was breaking all those windows on the outside. There's a lot of things to investigate with that scenario. But instead, what you and the media chose to do was lump everybody in who was different in political ideology and persecute them. And that's where I draw the line. Because if we wanted to, we could do the same to you about why cities were burnt down, why riots were taking place, why looting was happening all over this country. We could have done the same thing, but we didn't. We just said, okay, they got it out of their system. And now here we got at the Capitol a similar scenario play out. It just happened to be a different set of ideologies playing out, which, by the way, that's our legal constitutional right. That's not an insurrection. So the classification, it is misclassified on purpose to serve a political agenda of persecution and to enforce new draconian laws to start locking up anybody in this country who have a difference in political ideology or perspective. That's where this is headed. This is headed to a very dangerous place. And you all are not doing anything about it. You're going along with the narrative. And you're shutting other people up. And you're agreeing with the platforms that censoring other voices you don't agree with. How could you tolerate that? How could you allow that in your country and tell me that democracy is on the ballot? You willing to put somebody else who don't talk how you like in timeout, get their account banned, have them censored or shadow banned, and you're agreeing with you are watching all there, you know. You all are agreeing with the platforms for doing that. I have spoken to many of you many of the people I know. I would type on Facebook and I would ask you, like, how do you feel about this situation? And each one of you justified censorship, saying that censorship at the level of blocking Trump and anybody who support Trump is necessary because, and then fill in the blank. You all gave your reason, whatever silly reason that was. Which in return, I could have done the same for you. And that's the point. You cannot police speech. Because the minute you start to police speech at that level, there's some agreement we could come to as a community. We could say, you know what, it's a platform, let's try to kind of let the algorithm regulate certain hate speech, or maybe give somebody a second chance to rephrase something. That I understand. I understand that completely, which by the way the algorithm already does. Sometimes I will type something and say, boy, you're real stupid. I'll just type it out and the algorithm will come back and say, people have been banned or blocked for saying that. How about you rephrase it? And it give you a suggestion how to rephrase it. And it rephrase it, and I thought, that was good. That was a nice idea. I could work with that. I could work with something like that. An algorithm that trains you how to talk to people. That sounds better to me than an algorithm that shuts you up because you didn't say what the narrative was at the time. What kind of a country are we creating if we have to block and stop and shut people out who don't talk what we don't agree with? How are we going to learn anything or figure out where we stand on any issue if we don't have debates or arguments? How are we going to grow as a country if we start taking this mentality and attitude that group A is evil, so group B must be the right one? Rather than everybody saying, you know what, I might think a little different about something, you might think a little different about something. Let's come together and have a conversation about it. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's talk about it. Let me lay all the issues out on the table that concern me, and let's match it up with the issues that concern you, and then let's cross-reference and see where we connect, where we have similarities, where we might differ. And if we should have a difference, it is very easy to respect someone and say, I love you, I care for you as a fellow citizen, I appreciate you, I respect you, and I respect you enough that you will make a decision that's best for this country. You're going to go vote for who you're going to vote for, and I'm going to vote for who I'm going to vote for. And come the day after election, we all go back to work and make our money and pay taxes and feed our families and build businesses and succeed in life. Because at the end of the day, that's what a real democracy is. A real democracy is people who respect each other's opinions and decisions politically, religiously, whatever the case might be, and can find commonalities to come together and be united as a country in that manner. But you see, when people start talking this nonsense about beware with that group because that group this, and beware with this group because this group that, watch yourself, because I done watching you already. I done checking your scene to see where you coming from with that attitude, with that logic you bring in there. I never once tell anybody who was a Democrat they're evil or wrong. A lie. One time I post something about that, but that was to get the attention of the group that was persecuting me at the time. The persecution has stopped, thank God, because I stood up for myself. And I grew a backbone, and I say, I'm not going to let nobody tell me in America, in the United States of America, with the Constitution of these United States, tell me what I can and cannot say, who I can and cannot vote for. That is my right. That is my constitutional right. I have that right, as do you. And we also have the ability, because of the First Amendment, to have a discussion, an argument, a debate, and come to an agreement or a disagreement, and go out and vote for who you think you agree with. And call it done. Leave your disagreement at the polls. Whoever take office, let them take office and let their work show who they are. Let their policies show who they are. And I will tell you this. The Democrats have shown me for 2 years where their policies lie, where their allegiances lie, and who they really, what their real plan is. I have watched the Democratic Party tell us to our face on the news, when they get on the sound bites there with Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, even Joe Biden. I have sound bite after sound bite. I'm going to make a video. I'm going to go on YouTube and pull up all the videos and chop it up and make little cut up sound bites of all of them saying that in order for us to compete with China and Russia, America has to become an autocracy, and therefore we have to put policies in place to take the Constitution away from the United States and bring us under the United Nations as one global country so that we can therefore compete with China. This is what the overall agenda is. This is no lie. This is no conspiracy theory. You could go to their website and read it. You could go and read the plan, the agendas that these people have laid out. There is no secrecy here. And you people coming to me with abortion and we have to stand up for women's rights, and there's not going to be any human rights if you all continue this line. You could forget about talking about women's rights and abortion if you all continue to ignore the bigger picture that's playing out here. The bigger animal that's eaten from behind the scene. You're not looking at the big machine coming from behind chewing, chomp, chomp, chomp. And you're down here fighting about abortion, no abortion, abortion, no abortion, abortion, no abortion. And how sad have we become as a nation where we so much don't like responsibility. We have become a nation of people who don't take responsibility and accountability for anything, that we are just no different than a banana republic or than another country like Trinidad and Tobago, where I just came from vacation, where everybody in Trinidad, the mentality in that island is, not me is the government fault, not me is the neighbor fault, not me is the criminal them fault, not me is another person fault. That same mentality is growing in this country because why? We are not taking responsibility for ourselves, for the unborn children who are in the wombs. We treat them like they're just a choice to make, and we discard them like rubbish. Meanwhile, people are sterile and cannot have children, and our population is dwindling at a rapid rate. The data is there, the facts are there. I'm not making this up. This is facts. You could look this up. Right? So all you're here talking all this nonsense, but you're all missing the bigger picture that's going on behind the scenes. Alright? So I just want to leave you with something, and that is this. I respect you. I love you. Right? I mean that with all my heart. I appreciate and think that you have something incredible and amazing to offer this world. And because of these great United States with the constitutional laws we have the luxury of disagreeing on things and having a debate about it. But at the fundamental core underneath that, we have to come together in unity to understand that we have to protect the very foundation that gives us the freedom to have a disagreement. That's my angle. That's my whole thing. And while they're on Facebook and Instagram, I post a lot of stuff that make you rattle and frazzle inside, and you go, oh, it's part of the process. And you think to yourself, it's what crazy, it's what mad, I don't understand what you're doing. That's the point. The point is to shock you, to jolt you, to get you to wake up and realize that the fundamental thing at stake here is the constitutional underlying right for you and I to have a disagreement and still shake hands and go out about that day. And be good productive citizens of this country, and to take accountability that if we have sex and we make a child, we take responsibility as a nation, and we make sure that we take care of this up-and-coming citizen of this country, this unborn citizen who no fault of his own came into your womb. Where's the right of that child? Where's the right of that unborn citizen? Meanwhile, there are people out there who try to have children and cannot have children. And you have people who do it loosely, loose behavior, making children in a one-night stand and just willy-nilly walking into the clinic. Boom, kill it, get rid of it. Future citizen, gone. Future doctor, gone. Future scientist, gone. Future engineer, gone. Future movie star, gone. Future president, gone. That's the whole thing that is sickens me about our culture, what we are turning into, what we become. Why I get up on here and I talk, even though I have nobody watching me right now, I don't care. I'm going to put my voice out there and express how I feel. I hope you feel inspired to do the same. We have to inspire our country to become a meritocracy again. We have to eliminate this lazy mindset that we are brewing with this new generation coming up. There's new people coming into this society who think that everything needs to be handed to them, that they are owed something. They're only owed life. That's it. We are all only owed life. There's nothing else after that. Once you have life and you have opportunity, in this country you have opportunity. I can't tell you the amount of times I left the United States. I went to India, I went back to Trinidad, and in both cases when I was in those countries, I always wanted to come back here. Because I knew once I landed on American soil, I had the ability to work my hands off and build myself. In 6 years' time, from landing here, back from India, back from Trinidad, I owned my own home. Think about that. Where in this world can you go and show up here with no money in your pocket, negative $6,000 in debt, $30,000 in school loans, and work your butt off and be in your own home? That's a blessing. To me, that's a blessing. But now there's talk about how nobody will own anything in the future, coming from the very same people who you are supporting. That's why I say I look at policy. I look at policy. I look at policies. I don't look at your virtue signaling. Don't come to me with, oh, well, the Democrats are more nice and we like to talk and we're politically correct and we care about people. You all don't care about nothing. Black Lives Matter, really? You do care about Black Lives? When? Since when? Name one time all you care that much. Who is going into the ghettos and building and reinvesting and restructuring and putting infrastructure and schools and trying to make sure that those children don't end up in gangs and ensuring that drugs don't come into this country and go into those areas, and that we de-incentivize the growth of crime in those areas, and that we make sure we incentivize fathers being in the homes with those families? Who is putting policies in place to build the black communities the real right way? Not the Democrats, I could tell you that. Because I have watched 60 years of policy destroy the black community. And not just in America, in Trinidad too, all over the world. Because they removed the male figure from the home and replaced the male figure with the government. Government school, government food, lunch program, government laptop. The government become your daddy. So your government is your daddy and taking care of you. You don't need no father. So what values you going to learn? What willingness will you have to be a man or a woman in this society, to be a productive member and to give back to your country? Like John F. Kennedy said, ask not what my nation could do for me, but what could I do for my nation? How could I give back to my country and my fellow countrymen? I hope for me this is it. One of the ways. I expect on doing more, plan on doing more. Anyway, again, a little tired. You all have a good night. I think it's a toss-up right now. I think it's going to be kind of a wash with the election here. It's going to be bacchanal for the next, or chaos for the next 2 weeks, I believe. I estimate about 2 weeks of chaos in the news. This counting, that county was red, then it went blue, then back to red. And we're going to see a lot of that coming up here, because that's kind of what we saw when Trump lost. It was the same exact thing. And now, because everything's so close, be ready for a lot of chaos in the news. It's coming. You could already see it. Look at up there. Look at how close the races are. You could already see the confusion is going to start coming our way. But that's besides the point. I just wanted to give a message to you out there as to my position and why I am, how I am, where I am, how I see things. And as I go along, I'll introduce you more to my mindset. I'm not scared. I'm not afraid. People are always telling me, boy, don't say that. Don't go there and say that. People might think this and people... So what? I don't care what people think, because my constitution grants me that right, that freedom, to not have to care what you think about me. And guess what? If you disagree with me, I'll probably have 100 people over here who agree with me. So if 100 people over here disagree with me, I have 100 people over here who agree with me. And so everything will work itself out, baby. It will have nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be fearful of, in my eyes. And that's the beauty of being an American citizen. So with that, have a good night. God bless. Take care.